Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's a little chilly out. The sky is overcast, and I can almost smell snow, except that's unlikely because Jefferson tells me our current temperature is 56, humidity is 56, winds at 4 miles an hour, and we won't have freezing tonight. They say we'll go to 37 degrees. So, what's going on? It's kind of more of the same in this sense. The Trump attack on his own party to heel and kneel to his wishes involves who he wants in his cabinet. And so it is true, he has the ability and shown in the past to take a vacation from what's logical, reasonable, disciplined, lawful, and constitutional. But there's a little craziness in his method this time, which is to choose and recommend and nominate people who are not deserving of the offices nor capable to perform them, and in fact kind of have a general proposal of destroying the agency that they're recommended to head. Now, I don't know if it's the most dramatic, but it's among the dramatic examples, is Congressperson Gates's recent nomination by the president, leading to his withdrawal from the House on the off chance that by doing this, he could cause the Ethics Committee not to report out what he had done. And supporting this position is the Speaker of the House, Johnson, a model of indiscretion in making such an outrageous position known, showing himself already to be whipped by the orange monarch to be. Now, no less a profile in courage is to be found in the Senate. Thune says he'll look at, perhaps allowing these nominees to be approved by them doing nothing during a recess, which is a provision of the law, which is not meant for a circumstance such as this. But let's make a mistake here and turn to notions of common sense and good practice. And we might even cite the FBI's own handbook for these background investigations. And it is, if there's anything that arises that shows ignobility or misconduct, arguably, it should be presented to the Senate to inform their discretion so they can decide whether to withhold their consent to the nominee. Now, Trump has created this gunfight at the U.S. Capitol Hill corral because he wants to break them. He wants them to bow to what he wants. However ridiculous the statement, kind of like in 1984, 2 + 2 = 5. When you finally get somebody to say that, you own them. And in 1984, when they finally get him to break that way, it's his own demise. Not just spiritually, not just cognitively, but dead. Now, what does Trump propose here? Trump proposes to run roughshod over our Constitution and to make the other department, that is the legislative and the judiciary, to make them minimal and weaker as compared to the power he seeks to save for himself. So on Jake Tapper today, when this came up, Jake Tapper had Johnson say, well, I don't know what's in there, and how is that possible? You've heard the stories and seen the interviews probably of members of Congress talking about how on the floor of the House, Gates would show pictures of these lasses underage that he was cavorting with and describe how he had the ability to sustain all-night sex binges by what drugs he took. Now there's a dude for you. So obviously cares about him a great deal. Now, Johnson, the Speaker in the House, doesn't want this information to go to the Senate because they might have to act upon it. So we're all going to pretend this. And there are members of the Judiciary Committee, I think of both parties, that want that information. And if they don't get it, they're going to need some of those drugs that Gates was using to buoy up their lack of, how would you call it, philosophical testosterone. And again, it may be the women that save the day on the Senate side. We'll see. I'm talking about the Republicans. So there's that. Now, Johnson said, I don't know what it is. These guys play ignorant whenever it's convenient. And it's not a bad defense, because we know they are ignorant, and their inclination is to do wrong things and to basically eliminate the government for their true employer, which are the wealthiest in America. And it shows and makes laughable how these guys can pose as the defenders of the middle class, these guys without class themselves. So, and I'm thinking of, if you saw a picture of Thursday night at Mar-a-Lardo, they were all gathered together and, sort of celebrating and having a good time, dressed in clothes that is as much as some people's rent in a single month, or even carrying charges on their mortgage. So this is the milieu in which we, as citizens, increasingly becoming, instead of just voters with a point of view, the resistance to the efforts to make our government a monarchy, to have a dictator at the head of it, whose name is Trump, and whose minions of corrupt individuals are prepared to foster anything for their Führer. And that is where we are. And so we had this embarrassing situation in which Jake on CNN played the statement of Trump about the enemy within and using the military to get at them, and asking the senator if this wasn't too much, too far, and how was he going to react to it. And the answer was, I'm here to represent the people, and that's what I'll do. And I thought to come on this show knowing that I was exposing myself, but I will not be intimidated. And so we have the lines drawn, and we need more leaders, more with gumption, with courage, who believe that the oath they took meant more than a paycheck, and submitting and being pliable to the orange ogre who would take over our government. Now, at the same time that we're talking about the enemy within, and we're talking about senators or others, we have a plan by the transition team to go after military officers for their role in the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which you may remember was originally approved by Trump when he was president the first time. And one of the top sentences one can get, if treason is proven, is death. Now, if this doesn't begin sounding like what a mini dictator would propose, I don't know what does. And so that's where we are. Now, on this, at the same point, I think Biden's made a move that weakens our position by agreeing to allow American missiles to land, to be fired in by Zelensky in Ukraine into Russia. That's a declaration of war. And they have to still have people at the State Department, Blinken and others, who know that that's the case. And yet they're going forward doing it. Now, do they think they have a way to win this? Do they think this is a desperate measure as they're at the point where Ukraine is going to fail? I don't know. But there you have it. And we have a defense secretary at this time who has one of these Me Too violations and has signed an agreement to settle charges about his sexual misconduct. And we don't have a clean answer on that. And, like Gates only has 2 years as a lawyer, much less anything having to do with prosecutions or litigation. Our defense secretary, Hedspeth, is in a similar situation in terms of running a decent-sized organization. People don't know what that's like, and there's a big difference even between studying it and being able to do it, to manage it, and to run it. So, going forward, where do we stand? We have to support senators like Schiff, who the president-elect has basically threatened to go after and punish and use military to go after him too, to put him in camps, to have bogus trials, to treat him as an enemy in a military sense. So military justice is to justice as military music is to music. It's an old saying. So these are our challenges, and Trump is coming on like gangbusters, hoping that he'll secure the area to his policies of being in charge without equal before Democratic leaders step forward and engage him. And if one charges into the ring and smashes him in the face, and we're talking metaphorically, it will change the whole thing. But Trump has a history before him, data points of doing the most outrageous things, and nobody does anything except, oh my God, he did that. I can't believe it. Do you believe it? And they all chuckle and laugh. And they did that in Germany, I'm sure, and we're doing it here. People are leaving this nation. We have to give them a reason to stay and fight. And if we don't, they should go and test it out. Because I'm not against anybody compromising whatever part of their life they spent here that served them well and is now compromised by a dictator here, like was the case when the Nazis happened in Germany. And Nazis marched on Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. And what did everybody do? Oh my God. You think anybody would call out the police and say, okay, that's enough of this. You're prompting hate in our community. When I was younger, and the ACLU represented the right of Nazis to march, I stopped paying the meager amounts of money I had to be a member of the ACLU, because I thought their skill was in other areas, and they didn't have to prove themselves to me, nor should they lend their ability to someone who is fomenting hate and danger and riot and recalling for an America that is everything else to stop that dead in its tracks. And that's what we have to do here. So those are a few of my disquieting thoughts. And as I walk here, I say adieu until tomorrow in our Cathedral of Trees. And I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.